Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is another special episode for the Diverse Women Summit on the Wisdom Circle Manifesto Women of Legacy. I'm so excited to have Nadia here. She is a past life regression facilitator therapist, as a psychotherapist, and she works with so many women and men, I believe, but women specifically, about uncovering their past and uncovering parts of who they are and soul retrieval and fragmentations. And we can talk a little bit more into that fun, juicy stuff because I love that stuff. And she will tell us much more about her practice and what she does. She's one of the most softest, really down to earth, very centered. I feel very grounded around her. She feels like very earthy, so it feels fun. And she is one of the women of the round table. So you will see her on the 25th if you're in the USA, and if you're in Australia on the 26th at the round table. I believe she's at round table number 3. Yes, she's on round table number 3. And she will be sharing some of her journey and some of her experiences as a diverse woman, which all women are diverse, of course, but her diversity and her personal experience in her life. So before I ramble on and take over the seat, I'm so excited to have Nadia here, sharing a little bit more about what she does and how it's going to be witnessing her inside the circle and inside the round table. Nadia, would you like to tell everybody else about you and about your magic?
Sure. Hi, Ella. So delighted to be here with you. Thank you so much for inviting me. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here and share with everyone. So the work that I do, I've been doing psychotherapy for the past 20 plus years or so. And I've always, before that, I was doing massage therapy and really how I got into this work. I've always been interested in the past life therapy probably since the 90s. When I did after college, I studied a lot, or I read a lot of books like Brian Weiss about past life therapy, and really that piqued my interest back then. I did a course in Hawaii for massage training. This was a second class that I did for massage, and it combined psychotherapy and mindfulness, working with people on the table, and it just like really that's when everything kind of came together. Yeah, for me, and I was like, aha, I see how it's all connected. And that was when I had this vision of like working with people more holistically, with all of the, body, mind, spirit, how we are all of these things. And so everything that I've done basically since then has been like a step toward working with people in this multidimensional way and seeing the human as a multidimensional being and knowing that we are healing on all of these different levels and that they all can be addressed and tended to and nurtured, and we don't have to necessarily do it all at once, but we can still, when one of the things when we do healing in one area, it will affect all the different areas of our life. Even with nutrition, when I did the IIN program of holistic coaching or nutritional coaching, and just focusing on that, like focusing on changing the diet or focusing on the body, and exercise will change different aspects of your life, and so I've been incorporating these different aspects basically so I can work with people in all of the ways, whatever it is that they need. But my focus as of these past few years, several years, has been more on the past life therapy. And I did a training in that several years ago. Um, just because it was really calling to me. Like I'm a person who has followed the seeds and followed the um, breadcrumbs, so to speak, my entire life. And I've been in a fortunate position where I could do that. So after college, I moved to Colorado, and that's when I went to massage school, and then to Hawaii. And then now I'm back in Michigan, where I went back to school for psychology. And and so it's like all of these things have just like led to one thing to the next. And the past life therapy was recently in the past, several years. And I just felt a call to get a training in that so that I could, work on it for myself, like learn
Yes.
for myself how things from the past are affecting me now, but then so I could help facilitate it for others and help them like find those seeds. And it's something for me that has really, I don't know, it's just really resonated deeply. There's so
Mhm.
many ways. There's so many ways to get to healing, and there's so many ways we can do the healing. But for me, this is one of the things that I find it very like simple and easy to really
Yeah.
get into the root of what it is that's troubling us right now in our lives. And so that's the way
Yeah.
that I work with people doing the past life regression, is that we work with a core concern. So it's like whatever the client's core concern is right now in their life, going from there and finding a phrase that really depicts that core concern, and then that's kind of
Mm.
jumping point for the regression. And so what it does is it really goes to that root of that issue, of where it started or what needs to be changed. And once we can get to that, wherever that is in the timeline of the lives, we can kind of go and I see it as like pulling up the root of the issue, and like, it's like yanking it up and pulling it up so we can kind of look at it. Yeah, it's a very like think like
I
that, like
love
in
it.
and
Yeah.
look at it and do what needs to be done with it, any unfinished business, finish any unfinished business, and then do the integration work around that. And that can take more than just the session. It can take a process of a few sessions or even months, to really get that piece and to like understand it. So it's a way of healing um, something in the present that is rooted in the past. And
Mm.
I think many of the people that you have here probably have this kind of multidimensional approach to healing, where we see that not everything has happened in this life right here, and that there's other
Mm.
ways to get to the things that the things that we're struggling with right now. There's other ways to get to that, and it's
Yes.
not about something that we did or didn't do, but it's really maybe a choice that we made or our soul made in a
Mm.
past life. Maybe
Mm.
8 lives ago or whatever it is, and we can deal with it in that um, from looking at it from that standpoint.
I
It
love it.
really
I
gets.
love it. I like we were just to lightly chat about what we were talking about a bit prior, because before these interviews I chat with the beautiful women a bit and we just kind of riff and just have a conversation. So not to go into full detail about what we were discussing about, but like in the past when I did spiritual like coaching and I was doing it for 2 years, like past life regression was a huge part of my practice and part of like the concepts of what people were coming to me for and like that kind of realm. As a channeler, that was something that I was tapping into, and I would receive messages and then we would go from there. And I found it really, really beautiful and really, really potent. But I'm just gonna be really frank and ask you a question that I kind of faced during that time of my service, is that I found people were very attracted to the magic and very attracted to the story, whereas they were not necessarily doing the internal healing or processing, and they kind of got fixated on the I don't want to say fantasy as in it's not real, but the fantasy of like the allure of that past life, or the allure of that experience, rather than implicating it into their current reality. What are some of the issues that you face as a practitioner, a past life regression practitioner? And as well, how do you kind of rebuttal, or how do you kind of deal with that situation if you do experience it in your own practice?
Well, I think one of the hardest things for me about doing this is it okay? This I just heard some feedback. One of the hardest things for me is, people are always at different levels of their ability to kind of like let go and be in their imagination, because really it's using the imagination as a portal to non-ordinary reality, and some people have an easier time doing that than others, and so it can be challenging. And I always give the direction, like, it might feel like your imagination, and that's okay, and to just go with whatever comes up and not assess it, and you don't need to analyze it. There's plenty of time to look at it and analyze it afterward, right? But so some people have a hard time just like letting go and allowing whatever is coming through to come up. Because it might be like, well, I read a book that talked about this last week, or I just saw a movie that's the same thing. And so they'll start like qualifying it or disqualifying it because they think they're just making it up, which is okay because it's like whatever comes up is what's there for us, whether it's the imagination or not, whether it's a past life or not. Because,
Yeah.
the important thing for me when I do this is that we stay with the emotions and
Yes.
helping people to stay in the feeling body of it. And so whether we classify it as a past life or we classify it as epigenetics or, our
Trapped emotions.
imagination, trapped
Yeah.
emotions, it doesn't really matter. It's more about staying with those emotions and allowing that to move through us. And that's where the healing occurs, right? And that's where the healing
Amazing.
occurs and that's where the change occurs. So that's always
Amazing.
the kind of like balance little struggle thing for me. Mhm.
Definitely. I love that. I actually absolutely love that. And I practice it and I preach this as well. And like when I teach into this realm of magic and fantasy. But
Yes.
what I wanted to say is that one of the most beautiful things with past life regression is it is really looking at trapped emotions in a different way. It's looking at it through your visual and through your subconscious mind and allowing your subconscious to speak through your mind, actually. So like we, as you all know, we store a lot of energy and a lot of information genetically inside of our body. We only use a small fragmentation of our genetic composition. So if we were looking at our genetic composition, what's not tapped into, not utilized, when we're tapping into past life regressions, in my eyes, in the way that I study it, I teach it, I preach it, I don't offer this anymore. So don't come to me for past life regressions. Go to Nadia. Nadia is your woman. Go to her. I don't do this anymore, but go to her for it. But for past life regression, it's not necessarily, in my eyes, it's not necessarily about the story that we're retrieving and the story that it tells. Like you said, Nadia, it's about the emotion, and it's
Mhm.
about the uncovering of the gifts and the human potential behind those stories. And that's what really interests me and really sparks my interest with it. And that's why I think it's very, at least like I would like people, I don't know, tell me if you agree with me or not, but I would like people coming into past life regression as an uncovering. And the uncovering is not with the story and not with who they are, it's uncovering their potential of their now. So it's like
Absolutely.
the gifts that is unlocking for them. And that's really the perspective I like to approach past life regression with.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts? Like what is your lens of past life regression that you want the audience to really take from it?
Well, that brings to mind because a few, several clients that I've worked with have had those experiences where they have tapped into gifts that they've had in a past life of interests that they may have now or that they may have not. And it's just rekindled that for them. And then they're able to now go in and be like, oh my gosh, I remember how much I love this and go right back into it. And then moving forward, do that. I guess the way that I have looked at it is in a way it's a healing. And I don't want to make it seem like, oh, it's a healing that we need to be fixed. But sometimes there's things that need to be removed in order for us to see the light that we are. And that's the beauty of it for me is when people can tap into that love, because that inevitably happens in nearly every session of the love that they have, either from the relationships that they had in that past life or even from when they pass through death and go into the afterlife and see how much love there is and how much they're surrounded by people who care for them and are or spirits guides who care for them and love them and are right there for them. And I've had some amazing experiences, and it just gives me like full body chills to think of that, especially when people have had lives of really like deep distress and darkness and felt alone, and then they die and they pass through and they see like how much love and how much support there's actually been for them the entire time that they were in their incarnation. And then that
Yeah.
now can translate to like, oh my gosh, I have these they're always here with me, and this is, I'm so supported and I'm so loved. And so that is just the beauty. I think the most beautiful thing is like being able to tap into and feel that love so that we know and we can just access that in a much more direct way.
Perfect. I love it. And this is a metaphorical death for you who are listening. So it's about like surrendering to the ego and having the body to go into euphoria and then having that rejuvenation, like a rebirth, essentially. So that was beautiful. Thank you so much, Nadia. So we are going to step into our second part. And for those of you who've been watching these little segments and these series for the roundtable, you guys know this is the part where I ask Nadia 3 out of the many questions that I have given the women to go through to bring to this interview or to this table, this mini table. And this is supposed to be a purpose of seeing the energy of what Nadia is going to bring to the summit and to the roundtable and tap into energetically and emotionally and feel into the vibration of what the roundtable offers and provides for you guys on a logical way, an emotional way, and an energetic way, and even a physical way. You might have some physical sensations, and that's great. We made you feel, and that's the purpose of this whole event. All right, Nadia. So Nadia was a wild card. She let me have the ropes. She's like, "You just pick," and I was like, "Okay, I will." So, are you ready for this? This is really gonna be a surprise for you. So, are you ready, Nadia?
Sure. Let's
All right,
go.
awesome. So whatever my eyes land on. So my eyes land on this one. What is one thing you want your audience to know about your teachings that they might not know?
Okay. Let's see. So I think, potential comes to mind. Like, I think the biggest thing that people get from working with me and that is transmitted in our sessions is that they are able to tap into their full potential. And I see that as, you know, a gift in the way that I'm able to see that for them, and then they're able to see that for themselves, and then they're able to step into that, and it's just like the beauty of it. Um, and knowing, and this is interesting because this is a past life of mine too, where I was a teacher and helped others. It was like I was a teacher in the military. So this is coming to me now, but I mean, I've had this memory before, but I was a teacher in the military, but I worked with my students on helping them tap into their potential. And it was very nourishing for them and for me. And it helped everybody that I worked with in that life. They took their light and their potential and then affected other people. And then that just spread out into their worlds. And so I see the work that I'm doing now is a very similar in this way. And that just the growth that can happen when somebody's held and honored and given them, that unconditional positive regard, which is something that I've I learned when I went to school for humanistic psychology, is like one of the tenets that we hold our clients with this unconditional positive regard, that they know everything that they need. They are the leaders. They are the ones who know what they need. And really all I am here to do is hold space for them to see that for themselves. And so that they can tap into following their heart and to do what they know that they need to do.
I love that. Okay. All right. I'm like, I wasn't supposed to say that. I was like, oh crap, I said something. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. So if your heart could speak one thing to the listeners about your experience so far, what would it be? So that could be so far in anything. It could be your experience so far with your practice, with your life, being a woman, of the summit. You can fill in the blank there. So if your heart could speak to one thing to the listeners about your experience so far, what would it be?
It would be, it's kind of a similar answer, that it's up to us to follow our hearts and to create the lives that we want. And we all have that potential to do so. And there's no, whatever whatever it is that we want, we can take one small step in that direction. Like, it may seem sometimes that what we want is so far away from where we are, but all we need to do is start with the one step, and to really feel into what is right for us. And I'm speaking to those of us who feel the need to, who receive energy, I think, from doing what we feel is in alignment. And I think that probably speaks for most people, but to really allow ourselves to just listen to our hearts and do what feels right. And that may sometimes be the hard thing to do. And we may upset people, but we know what we need. And like we have that, and nobody else can do it for us, and nobody else can know what we need more. And that includes spirit, right? Like we have to make those decisions for ourselves and really do what we feel, even if everybody else is telling us differently or can't see what we see. It's like, it's just so important, I think, to just listen to our hearts and to follow that direction.
Perfect. Okay. So without giving out too much information, what can the audience expect from you within the roundtable in the summit or the event?
Well, I've been thinking about this quite a lot, since you asked me, because, I do, in a sense, consider myself diverse in a way, the way that I grew up and my background and whatnot. But my experience growing up in the United States it hasn't been a negative one, and so I think that's what I'm going to speak to is just how, like, to me, it's really been beautiful the way that I have been, how I was raised, the people that I was around, and how I was able to navigate through in this country, and I'm, an immigrant to this country from the time I was 3. So
Hmm.
I was always kind of accepted as an American, even though I had some things that were definitely different, and I definitely felt different on the inside. So I'll speak more about that during the roundtable.
Yay. Alrighty, so as you guys know, we are on to the fun things. And in addition to the 3 questions that I requested from the women, I also requested them to send me in a theme song to their life, as well as a hashtag and a special, special, special prize for the woman that shares out the most content from the summit and roundtable for Nadia. So when I was to ask Nadia what her theme song was, I received I Follow Rivers by
Yes.
Markia Hackman. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I listened to this and it was beautiful. Can you tell us a little bit more about this song?
The song just speaks to me. I've been in some amazing like coaching containers and was given playlists, and this is one of the songs that was on one of the playlists. So I've been listening to it a lot this past year. And to me, it is, again, speaking to intuition and like following that thread and that inner knowing within ourselves, and to just allow that to let us guide us in all that we do. So it's a beautiful
Um,
song and I love it. And yeah.
I love it. I love it. Definitely, guys. It's on this. It's on the playlist. So tap into
Yeah.
it, and you'll really get to feel. I really love how the playlist is building and expanding. So if you didn't listen to it a couple of days ago, or you haven't listened to it yet, jump on it now. Get into the vibes of the summit with it. It's beautiful. If you did listen to it 2 days ago, 3 days ago, it's totally different now. So go in and listen to it more because there's more added to it. So it's really beautiful. It's growing. It's building. It's really beautiful. All right, so with Nadia, her hashtag. So when I asked her to give us a hashtag to tag her, and so this hashtag is what you're gonna tag Nadia and the diversity roundtable at. So when you're sharing the content for Nadia, you're gonna be tagging Nadia on Instagram. She's gonna give us her Instagram handle in 2 minutes, as well as her hashtag Past Life Regression, and she'll talk into a little bit. And then you're also tagging the Diversity Roundtable on Instagram. So it's at diversity.roundtable. And you're making sure you're tagging all 3 of us. If you want, you can tag SWA Solution, which is my Instagram as well. This just makes it much more easier and visible. Without tagging Diversity at Roundtable, it won't qualify into the tally. So you have to make sure you tag us so we can see it and we put it into the charts for you. And this way, you get a chance to win her amazing gifts. Before we give away what the prizes that you're giving, not a gift, it's a prize, so you have to win it. Let's talk into it if it's not evident, because we really spent the whole conversation talking about past life regression. But just in case we need to drive it home a little bit more, why hashtag past life regression? Just
Well,
in case.
it's funny because we talk, because I practiced some shamanic healing work as well, and we talked about doing a journey session. But since we've been talking about past life regression this whole time, I could do either one. We could do it as a past life regression or a shamanic journey. And the
Yeah.
journey work is it's a different way to get into to work with the healing. And instead of the client going into the healing, I would go into doing a journey for the client. So I would say, like, we can do either one. We could do the past life regression or a shamanic healing or
Amazing.
soul retrieval, which is very similar as well to the past life regression. It's retrieving parts
Yes.
of the soul that may have been lost at different
Yeah,
times due to trauma or, um, yeah, difficult
definitely.
times. Hmm.
I believe in soul retrieval a lot. I am a big advocate of soul retrievers. So I do believe that's a really good form of inner psyche work. So
Yes.
I do love soul retrievals. And that's like for those of the women who play in the realm of like priestess and high priestess and women's circles, and not women's circles per se, but like in priestess trainings. And you do like the meditations and the retrieval work. This is what it is. This is the soul fragmentations. Like when you do goddess work, when you work with different goddess archetypes and you're embodying that, that is also soul retrieval work as well. And the
Right.
whole priestess paradigm is based on healing, but as well as soul retrieval and soul fragmentation and the
Hmm.
retrievals of those fragmented souls so we become wholer. And I think that's what our whole life is. As humans, we're definitely walking through life trying to bring back parts of our soul continuously. So I really, 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 really love that.
Yeah, we have one more thing to say about that. Just, I think it's like at this time on the planet, that's like what these souls are doing. What most souls are doing is retrieving all of these pieces back for themselves.
Mm,
And there's so many different ways to do that and to access that. And it's
mhm.
not like my vision, my, imagination of the future is that we're not going to need to do this type of work,
Mhm.
well into the future, because right now we're retrieving all of that. Right now is a time of healing. It's a time of people working through their generational trauma, their ancestral trauma, all sorts of trauma, and becoming more whole so that we can move into the future as more holistic beings that if there's a trauma that happens in the future, we deal with it immediately. So
Yeah,
that we'll be able to have access to these multidimensional aspects of ourselves. So I really feel
definitely.
like this is, it's pertinent right now, but I'm hoping that in, 100, 200 years, like this is going to be a thing of the past.
To be
This
really
type of,
honest, I think, yeah, to be really honest, and I think like right now we have the opportunity to actually step away from like soul retrievers and stuff like that and those type of works because there's a lot of information within the body. And I know this sounds old, but it's not. It's new. I swear, it's new. Especially for the woman who was really into like the subconscious and the psyche work. So it's the consideration of balance, and having that aspect of incorporating the body aspect as well as within the psyche work and the spiritual work. And not saying that you need one over the other, but maybe considering the holistic aspect of emotions that stored in the physical body and grounding that in. I think it's very important now that we start grounding in our magic and grounding in our healing. And that means not taking it from the ethers in the head and really bringing it into the physical. And that is what's going to escalate and deter the, I'm going to just say it from my lens. I feel like the codependency to the story. We're
yeah,
so codependent to the story. We want a story. We want to know the characters. We want to know what they're wearing. We want to know the flavor of the cake. Like we want the full nine. And none of this matters. It doesn't matter. Yeah, what matters
no,
is the emotion and what we take with the emotion and how we embody the emotion and how we land in our physical body, and then what do we do with it in the external, what we alchemize within the external. And this is really what my practice is about now, is that aspect of it, the embodiment practice and the body and how to manifest it into external. So really, really thankful, Nadia, for a pure conversation and all this juicy conversation. Honestly, it's quite juicy. It's like stuttering at the line of like more, and it's playful, so I like it. I like it a lot. um before we jump off and before we say goodbye to listeners and the viewers, because we have people listening on the podcast as well as watching us on the interview here on Facebook. It's the Women Diversity Summit and Roundtable on Facebook business page, as well as you can catch this recording as well on Instagram. Like I said before, Diversity at Roundtable. And you can listen to us on the podcast, and there's also the YouTube. We're everywhere, guys. It's like to go deep, go deep. The podcast is a great experience because you have audio only and it lands and it kind of gets you thinking in different ways. And then when you listen to us through the video, you get to pick up on other cues like our body and all these type of things and our face expressions, which adds a different sensory or a different reading of information to you as well. So great, both experiences on both ends. Before we jump off and we say goodbye to everybody, let us know where we can find you.
Oh, okay. So I'm on Facebook, Nadia Elmagrabi. Yeah, I think my name's written right there. So it's just as it spelled, just as it sounds. It looks a little intimidating, I know. And Instagram, it's the same, Nadia underscore Elmagrabi, I believe.
Amazing. Amazing. Perfect. So I am so happy to have you as one of the women on the roundtable. I'm so excited about your sharing and what you're going to provide and give. And I think it's such an amazing outlook. And I really, really am excited to see that flavor in the table and what you provide and give to the table. For those who are on the fence about listening or about coming in, it's listening and experiencing and being with the roundtable, go ahead and click on Nadia's link above. It's going to be around here somewhere, and that's going to give you access to the roundtable and to the summit. It's going to be such a beautiful experience. This is really coming together of women through diversity and that being held together as one and us seeing the different walks of life that makes the wholeness of a woman. So really wanting you to tap into that and feel into that. And if this is geared towards women who are in the mentorship and coaching world, so you will also get access to some embodiment practices as well as some tools and kits to work through that you can use in your own practices or your own business, as well as resources of women that you can go to that are healers and are business coaches and our array of multiple different aspects, health coaches. Like we have a tons of different things in this summit for the mentorship and the coaching world. So you're really getting an array of information and you're getting an array of beautiful, beautiful aspects of our industry. So I'm really excited to be bringing this to all of you guys. And thank you so much for being with us. Thank you, Nadia. And
Thank
I'll
you,
see you
Ella.
guys soon. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure.